Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast. I am your host, Donnie Corum, and this is the show where we discuss how you can find, figure, fund, fix, and flip a foreclosure deal. But we also bring on other great strategies. And part of the cool thing about this show is bringing on other investment coaches and other spaces where you can make a ton of money doing real estate investing. I am super excited to talk about land today. You know, one thing they're not making more of is any more land. We're certainly making a lot more people. They seem to be everywhere, but they're not producing more land. So investing in land can be extremely lucrative and give you the income that you need to transfer that income and other passive wealth building strategies. Flipping land is an incredible way to do that. And today we're going to talk with Jack Bosch to learn more about how he's flipping land and how he can teach you to do the same. Excited to have him on the show. Let's get going. Hello again and welcome back. I'm excited to have Jack Bosch on the show today. Jack, how you doing, man?
I am doing fantastic. How about yourself? I love that introduction. That was, wow. I love that intro. Everything was beautiful.
Gotta bring the energy, man. People get bored fast. You know, it's really important we keep them engaged. So
absolutely, let's do it.
Show, Jack. Obviously, you're doing land flipping. Tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you got started in real estate investing.
All right, sounds good. So I flip land like other people, wholesale land like other people wholesale houses. Okay. Just with one big difference, there are no houses, which basically means it's so much simpler in a way. Because like when you do wholesaling of houses, very simple concept. You find a house, find it below market, do a bunch of marketing, find the person, sit down at the kitchen table, get them to agree on it, turn around and mark it up a little bit, pass it on to somebody else, who is either a fix and flipper or whatever you want, whatever. It depends on the condition of the house, and make a little money in the middle, but you don't do anything to the house.
Right.
That's exactly what we do with land.
Okay.
So with a big benefit, the only difference is that with land, you get way steeper discounts.
Okay.
Because by definition, a piece of land, a house is something that people have a use for. You can see the house. You can imagine there's a tenant in there. You can imagine yourself renting it out. But you see a piece of land, and most people just drive by. Most people don't know what to do with it. Those people, in reality, is if you buy a piece of land and hold it, it doesn't bring you cash flow. It only costs property taxes. It only has you have to cut the weeds and maintain it a little bit. Somebody might dump their trash on it, and you have to go pick it up or get a city violation. And it's it's a little bit of a hassle to hold on to land long term.
Certainly,
yes. Millions of people want to do that, but basically what we have figured out is how to find the people that own pieces of land. There's 46 million pieces of land in the United States. At any given time, 5% of them are willing to just get rid of them for pennies on the dollars. Sometimes we get them for 10 to 40, 50 cents on the dollar. And then we turn around and we wholesale them without usually having seen them, without usually having done anything to them. We wholesale them to usually an end buyer, which is somebody who wants to build on it, somebody who wants to buy and hold and just let the value appreciate, somebody who wants to perhaps develop it, somebody, if it's outside of town, somebody who wants to perhaps wait until they retire, put a mobile home on there, or if it's a larger piece of acreage further outside of town, it might just be their mini ranch that they want to, down the road, have spend their weekends and go hunting and things like that. So bottom line is that's what we do. My wife and I have been doing this for 22 years. We've done over 5,000 deals. We specialize in actually using also creative finance around it, because one way is simply take a $50,000 lot, put it on a contract for 10 and sell it for 30. You make 20 grand.
Good day.
Also take that $50,000 property if you get it for 10, sell it for 50 grand. Allow the buyer to pay it with monthly payments, but give you a 20% down payment. Sure. If you look at that, 20% down payment of 50 is 10, which is exactly what you need to pay the seller.
Correct.
So ideally, you can structure it such that the buyer brings all the money you need to send to the seller. You do a deal without money out of your pocket, and now you have a note where somebody pays you $500 a month for the next 15 years, and you just made you just generated a $90,000 profit over time and $6,000 a year in cash flow without putting a dollar into your pocket, without taking a dollar out of your pocket.
That's incredible, Jack. And obviously, when you find a deal like that's huge. But we like to compare all of these strategies to my 5-step process of finding, figuring, funding, fixing, and flipping. So let's do that with land flipping right now. How do you find these deals? Where are you locating these opportunities where you have people who are willing to take pennies on the dollar for a land deal? How do you locate them?
So we find them using basically those pieces of land usually fall into one of 3 categories. They either infill lots, like think about the city, street, 35 houses, 2 empty lots, ready to be filled in, thus the name infill lot. We find them by simply going into data sources and say, like, I want in this zip code, I want all the pieces of land. And you can go into the city and you get all the infill lots. And then we use direct mail, cold calling, or texting with a follow-up process to get them. The second category of properties is properties in the path of growth. So outside of the last development of a growing area, city, and you can be out even half an hour drive outside of that area, of a big metro area, and you're still in the vicinity of the city. And those properties, first of all, there's millions of them. And secondly, those properties, the owners often they had plans they were hoping the city would approach faster, but it didn't. Right. They were hoping that they were planning to build something there, but then they moved away. Perhaps they passed away and the heirs own the property, but the heirs live 2,000 miles away. And so often these people, they just don't want the properties. They don't see the value in them. They don't understand that there's value in them, and they're just willing to give them away for pennies on the dollar. And those, the same thing. You go and with some of the softwares, and one software we have, what we built, you simply pull up a regional area, say, I want to be in that zone outside. You can draw a circle. I want to be outside of that area of that city. Give me all the land that's typically within 1 and 10 acres, where the owners have owned the property either for a long time, or you can also search in some cases for like the deed type. Like when they inherited a property, they don't get a warranty deed. Mm-hmm. Right? They get a trustee deed or judgment deed or something from the probate. Sure. And so in many cases, you can search by that, and you find those heirs. You find those people who have owned it for 40 years and no longer want it. And then you do the same thing: direct mail, cold calling, or texting.
Track them down.
And the third kind of property is then the recreational mini ranch, as I call them, like 10 to 100 acres, an hour, 2 hours away from big cities. And the reason we focus on those is that on those 3 kinds of properties is that there's right now, particularly with COVID. Well, first of all, the lots in the city, you sell to a builder like that.
Sure.
Right? Builders are interested in those. The lots in the path of growth, we have 2 kind of buyers. The first kind of buyer is a future retiree that realizes, like most retirees, don't have enough money saved up.
Right.
So as a result, they look at that. The rental rates in the city are $1,600 for a 2-bedroom apartment. Social Security, $1,600. They're like, man, I'm screwed.
There's a gap, right?
There's a gap. So they're realizing that, well, what if while I'm still having a job in my 50s, what if I buy that $30,000 piece of land, half an hour outside of town, pay it off in $300 a month payments for the next 10 years. Then I get myself a $10,000 used mobile home, put it on there, and I got a dignified retirement.
I love it. And people buy land for a wealth of reasons, but I'm glad that you guys have really identified your target of people who are looking for that land, because it is a little unclear who's gonna take the time to develop it. So it seems like you really got that figured out. So the next thing we apply it to, and we're comparing it to my 5-step strategy, is the analysis. How do you figure out what that land is worth in the open market? Where does the value come from?
Yeah, if I quickly just finish up, like the recreational large acreage is obviously, that's like hunters, people with deep pockets that just want to have their own ranch somewhere. They just love that stuff, and that's like hot. Every time I go into a room and speak and ask, like, who would love to have their own mini ranch? Half of the rooms are up. Half of the heads in the rooms are up. So, and a lot of these people make good money, which is also important, because those 20 acres somewhere, they might be worth 100, 200 grand. You need a buyer that has some financial firepower to buy them. And the good thing is they do have that. And then with COVID, lots of people work from home. They want to move outside of town anyway. So we got the perfect scenario for these buyers. So the next step is these kind of like how, and the contact is always the same, like direct mail, cold call, texting. You choose your way there, a little follow-up system. The key is really identify who are we looking for as a typical buyer, a typical seller, and I already talked about that, the kind of property, and either heirs or people that owned it for a long time. So then how do we value the property? There's 5 ways to value the property. First 2 ways are the most simple ways. People always have a little bit misconception. I think that's from 10 or 15 years ago.
Okay.
10 or 15 years ago, there were no sold comparables anywhere online about any land. You could go on Zillow and you would find sold properties for houses.
Of course.
But the moment you go into land, it was empty.
Nothing.
That's different today. Today, land, you go on Zillow and you change your land, you see thousands of sale prices.
You do.
So land records are now being reported on Zillow and have for like at least 5 to 7 years. But before that, I've been doing this for 22 years. We did not have any sold records, but today we do. So that's number one, very simply. Say like, okay, if I have a 2-acre parcel, half an hour outside of town, I'm going to go to Zillow. I'm going to see like what's in that area, what is sold in the area. And if it's a growing area where there's some movement, which is what we want, we don't want to be the only property that is for sale or has sold in the entire area. That would mean it's a dead area. We want to be in an area where there's movement. Well, if there's movement, then other properties have sold. Right there, we see on Zillow, oh, this one sold for 50 grand. This one sold for 55. This one sold for 53. Well, what's our per value? 53K. Let's go. Boom. And make our offer. And now based on that, we make a $15,000 offer. We get it accepted. We put it up for 35K and sell it, make 20 grand on it. Done.
When you're talking,
go ahead, please.
I was going to ask you a question. When you were talking about valuing land, does views, do other things, what other factors in addition to the sales price? Are there features like on a house, 1 car versus 2 car, where I would affect my valuation based on these features?
Yes. So the first thing is we look at a couple of things. First thing we look at, do we even want to be in that area? And that matters based on, again, if I see that 300 properties are for sale, but only 10 have sold, huge alarm signal, right? Because it means there's no demand.
Right.
So what we're looking for is for areas where demand and supply are in balance, where we perhaps have 100 sold and 100 listed, or if it's a small area, perhaps 30 listed and 30 sold. That's a good area. Or even if it's one is more than the other in either direction, that's fine, as long as there's movement, as long as there's stuff that happens. That's one of the things, is because nobody wants to be like in a situation where you have 10,000 sold and only 100 listed. It's not a good area either, because usually you don't get deals there. Everyone and their brother knows that there's value to the property and nobody gives them to you for pennies on the dollar.
That's right.
But if you have 10,000 sold and 10,000 listed and only 10 sold, you don't want that either, because everyone is trying to dump their property. Nobody's buying. So why would you become property number 10,001? Doesn't make any sense. So that's first of all, we look at that. But then in the thing for the actual valuation, we look at sold comps, we look at listed comps, we look at size, and we also look at obviously like, I can only use something as a comparable is it have similar amenities. So basically, if it's on a road, if there's 3 lots on a road and they're on the same road, and there's some houses in between, let's say, then we can assume that all these 3 lots have similar access to water, sewer, electric.
Okay.
Right? And if not, I can do a little bit more research and find out if that's true.
Sure.
If I see that in the general region, there's one that sold for $60,000, but another one sold for $30,000, but they're the same size, then I probably want to dig a little bit more and see like, well, what's going on? And what I probably find out is that the one for 60 has water and sewer and electric to it. Right. And the one for 30 probably doesn't.
Didn't have the amenities yet.
Yeah. So those are kind of the things. So ideally, the comparables, you want to be as clustered as possible, as close as possible, similar in size, similar in neighborhood. And obviously, when you go into something like a infill area, you want to look at the quality of the neighborhoods. Like it's sometimes like you see one neighborhood, if all the houses are worth $500,000, the land typically is worth 20% off that.
The value.
Okay. So of the value. So you go like, great, $100,000 lot.
Right.
What you'll probably see is that some lots in that area sold for $100,000, but it could be that across the street lots are selling for $200,000.
Sure.
Does that mean yours is worth $200,000?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. It means that most likely, my first thought is that's probably a $1 million neighborhood.
Sure. The neighborhood changed on you in that process.
And the neighborhood matters. Exactly. So on the infill lots, it matters and so on. So that already gave you another way of measuring the value. So the first value is sold comparables. The second one is where in the infill lots is obviously the value of houses in the neighborhood. And if the houses in the neighborhood are of a decent value, like $400,000 or $500,000 and up, typically the land is worth like 20 to 25% of the house values.
Makes sense. Okay.
But let's go back to just the raw land that's a little bit outside of town.
Okay.
The second way the way we had to use for the first 15 years of doing this business is actually going after listed comparables.
Okay.
Because if there's no solds available, then you switch on Zillow to listed and you look at what's listed. Right. And then you subtract about 10 to 15% from that, because most properties are listed a little higher than they ultimately sell. Makes sense. That's how we done really, really well for 15 years at the beginning, made millions of dollars in profits, very simply because the thinking is the following. Okay. Most of these lots are listed by realtors. The realtor is not just going to go and say, you know what? Yeah, let me just price it at this. No, the realtor actually, because it's a big real estate brokerage, they know in their records what properties have sold for.
Right.
That data is just not on Zillow, or wasn't back until 5, 6, 7 years ago. Sure. But so back then we basically said, like, well, if a realtor lists it at $60,000, they probably know that others sold for $50,000 to $60,000. Sure. So let's assign a value of like 10, 15% less. So like $52,000, $53,000. Let's go. That's our value. And again, we're right on target. And so there are 3 out of the 5 ways. Indian rural areas, you have to adjust for size sometimes. And then in some areas, but please do not rely on that on the 5th one, assessed value in some areas also gives you a really good indication of what the property is worth. Like in the stable market, like in Arizona, assessed value is usually 2/3 of market value. In Florida, it's about 85 to 90% of market value. In Arkansas, it's only 20% of market value. So at least it gives you an idea. If in Florida something is assessed for $37,000, my first hunch is, okay, it's probably worth 40.
Sure.
Then I go try to find some comps, and if the comps show me, oh yeah, it's in the 40s range, I'm done, and I'm moving on. I'm making my offer, and I'm moving. So it's not hard.
Right.
It used to be hard.
Sure.
Back up to like 10 years ago or so, it used to be much harder to get to valuation. Today is actually very, very easy.
But to your point, the data is getting better, right? There's just more access to comparable data right there on Zillow. Obviously, some of it was on the MLS. But to your point, you have to be able to really identify the valuation based on a series of factors that, with your 20 plus years of experience, is easier for you to determine that. So I love that. Let's go to the next.
We teach people now how to do it, obviously. And at the beginning, it might take you 15, 20 minutes to figure out the value. But after you've done it like 20, 30, 40 times, you should have it down to 5 minutes of property of what it takes you to value a piece of land.
I love that. Third F is the funding of the deal. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of seller carry financing. You're convincing the owner to carry the paper while you're doing it. Do you ever put cash into a deal, or are you just generally looking for those owner carry opportunities?
So just to make sure, we're actually doing we're using seller financing when we are selling. So we are carrying the note. When we are buying, we don't convince the seller to carry the note. We simply just put the deal on a contract.
Okay.
And our contract is really, really fun. It's a 1-page contract. We actually make our offers by mail. We don't sit down at kitchen tables because land doesn't have kitchen tables. And most owners live thousands of miles away from the property. Plus, because it's land, you can do it virtually anywhere. You don't have to do it in your home market. Like we have people doing this from Germany, where I'm originally from. I've been in the country for 27 years. You asked that earlier. I never answered it. But I've been in this country for 27 years. I'm a citizen now. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, in the Phoenix area. And we have now students in Germany and Austria and Switzerland and Spain and Mexico and even in China that do this all over the United States without ever having to see the properties.
That's so cool. The ability to make money on land you're never going to see in person from anywhere in the world. Well, one incredible opportunity. And a good place to segue. People who want to learn more about this can head out to landprofitfund.com. And you said there's a free download they can get to learn more about starting the process?
Yeah, they can download a free 30-day blueprint, which basically shows them exactly how they can set up this business for themselves. at home over a 30-day period, and it's a very detailed step-by-step kind of guide to show you how to set this up yourself.
Yeah, and to clarify that, thank you for that clarity, because you're not putting your own cash into deals. You're tying the property up, much like when we wholesale a house, right?
Yeah.
And then, like you said, you've got a down payment or a purchase price. That could be your down payment when you go resell it or carry financing. So the end buyer is actually funding the original contract price.
That's how we love doing this. Now, it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes you have a deal on a contract for 20 grand and you only get a $15,000 down payment. So you can either borrow that money, or you can, if you want to do it as seller financing, or you can sell the note right away and cash out of the deal right away. There's a lot of creative finance strategies out there, but usually our two top strategies is simply wholesale the deal for cash. Take that $100,000 property under contract for 50, sell it for, put it on the market for 70, make 20 grand, move on. Take that $300,000 property under contract for 180, sell it for 230, make 50 grand and move on. Or even that $20,000 property, put it under contract for 4, sell it for 12 and make $8,000. Like, and that's just like, that's a quick, sometimes you make 3K, sometimes you make 30K, sometimes you make 300K, right? So it's just a different, but it's classic wholesaling, And
I love it.
Yeah, and then the second way is the seller financing. I really love doing those, particularly if I have a deal that I got really, really cheap. So if I got like this $30,000 property for $3 grand, I can sell it for 30 with probably a $5,000 down payment, put money in my pocket, and still have a $25,000 note that the other person now pays off in monthly payments of $300-$400 a month. That's our two strategies, but you can go beyond that. You can go over time. You can go do wraps where you do buy it with seller financing from the seller, turn around, sell it for more at a higher price, higher interest rate, higher monthly payment to a buyer, and basically build a wrap. You can also sell notes. You can also split land. You can develop land. I mean, all of that, once you enter that, there's about 16 different strategies in the land space that you can do that we won't have time to cover right now. But the most important ones is that most people start out with is that. So the funding part of it, usually when you do that double close, even when you get it under contract for 10 and sell it for 30, you do an assignment or a double closing. I would think that our student base, probably 95% of them do double closes. So double closes means that you buy the property for 1 minute and then you sell it right away, but all the money comes from the buyer. So if you buy it for 10 and sell it for 30, the buyer brings in 30, and sometimes you can negotiate that they're bringing 30 plus closing costs. So they're bringing like 32. The title company takes 2 for themselves, sends 10 to the seller, and sends $20,000 to you, and you just made $20,000 without you putting $1 of your money into it. And I would think 95% of all our student deals happen like that, because not everyone sits on, I don't know, 20, 30 grand all the time, or 50 or 100 grand. Or even if you do, there's no need to actually put them into the deal. You can use them for education. You can use them for marketing. You can just, it's a great way to do deals without having to risk a lot.
I love that. Yeah, and it's the structure is so important. Deal structure, especially when you're funding land, any deal, particularly wholesale, but how you structure is really going to determine your profitability. And that's why we make so much money doing what we're doing, right? Because you understand different deals over 22 years, how to structure them properly to get the best results. So that's why it's working. The next F is the fix. You don't really have to fix land, but what do you have to repair in land? Is there title work sometimes that you're fixing, estate issues? Well, what are you working through to get the land saleable between the acquisition from the seller you got it from? What general work has to go into each deal?
Great question. Yes. So on the land, I mean, sometimes could you come across a piece of land where there's perhaps an old dilapidated mobile home that needs to be removed? Could there be a situation where the road access has been a little bit eroded and you get somebody with a backhoe to make the road nice again or put the building pad on there? Could you even go as far as having put like utilities in there or to the property, or perhaps a mobile home pad and a hookup for an RV or things like that? You could do all those things, but we typically don't. I think of my 5,000 deals, probably 4,990, I have not touched the property physically. 10, I have probably done some cleanup more than anything, because somebody left the property behind with like 3 torn up RVs are laying around that that the wind and bears and whatever thing have taken them apart over time. So we got somebody come out for a couple $1,000s and clean it all out, make it nice again, and that enabled us to sell it for like 10 grand more.
Wow. That's
and
great.
those kind of things. But you're 100% right that there is work involved. Obviously, this is not a get rich quick kind of program whatsoever. There's work involved, and the work is usually sometimes the reason why you get these properties so cheap is because there are title issues.
Okay.
Right? So, but the nice part is title companies usually fix them, but it is very valuable to know about how to fix them. So over time, you will become a title expert, which is actually pretty cool, mate. I mean, just like earlier this year, I had a title situation where I told the title officer what to do. They're like, I don't think we can close on this. And it's like, really?
Yes, you can.
Can I see the things? Like, all you need to do is you need to get that death certificate from that person. You need to send it over there. You need them to sign over this. But I've done 5,000 deals. I don't expect the beginner to know that. But typically, and usually they don't fall apart. But yeah, so sometimes there's title issues. And the title issues could be as simple as a probate.
Sure.
I can't tell you how many properties I bought where the owners, the sellers basically say, you know what, you can have it for anything because I can't get free and clear title on it because I would need to require probate, and I don't have the $3,000 it takes to put it to probate. So if you want it, you can have it. It's like, okay, are you willing to sign the documents if we take it to probate? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. It's like, great. So I will pay for probate. I will put it through them. Then from them, it goes to me. And then from me, it goes on there. But the nice part about that is, and that's the part that many sellers don't know, probate attorneys are happy to do a probate and wait to get paid until the property sells.
Sure.
So you actually don't have to pay the $3,000 up front.
You put
Sellers don't know that.
Yeah.
In other cases, there's some states have what's called small estate probate. So if the property's under, if the estate, including real estate, is under 50,000 or 75 or 100,000, different states have different rules. Okay. You can just have the seller fill out the 3-page form, have it notarized, it, send it to the court. 3 weeks later, the probate is done, and it costs $180.
That's great.
But people don't know these kind of things, but as you know them, you can help people to probate. You can get deals that, because they think it's going to cost them thousands of dollars and it's complicated, which is not true. You can get those properties very, very, very easily transferred over to you. So we do that. That's kind of sometimes the work we do, and then we do a little bit work on the selling side. Of course, we're selling these properties. That's probably the fifth one, right?
Yeah, that's the fifth F. You led right into it, Jack.
There you go.
The fifth one is the flip. So you got the property, you fix the title issues, right? You're now looking for the seller or the new buyer. You are the seller. How are you locating these potential buyers? Are you listing them yourself on the MLS, or how do you find the potential buyer to get rid of the land?
So the answer to everything is yes. All of the above. Okay. So in other words, that is the beauty of it. You design it however you want to design it. So one of our coaches in our program, it does about 50, 60 deals a year, uses exclusively realtors. He became the best in the world of finding what he calls the Michael Jordans of land realtors. Okay. Like the best, the guys in the industry in their area for land. And he just gives them all the deals. So he does nothing on the selling side. But he sells 50 properties, and it makes an average of 20 to 25 grand a piece. So he has $1 million business, $1 million profit business with no effort on the selling side. Many others do. You can also though do it by yourself. And when you do it by yourself, the first thing you do is you put it on Zillow. You don't have to be a realtor to put a property on Zillow. You do not. You can put your properties on there even after only having them on a contract. Put it on Zillow. Put it on Facebook Marketplace. Put it in Facebook groups. Put it on a website called landwatch.com. Gets like 5 to 6 million visitors a month. Wow. All they have is land for sale. And it's basically a huge platform. It's a huge marketplace that you can put your properties on. So you put it on landwatch.com and market it there. And then another way you can sell it is like many of our coaches sell about a third of their deals to the neighborhood. Interesting. Like you think about this, just because one person wants to get rid of their piece of land doesn't mean everyone in the neighborhood wants to. Like True. Particularly if it's a path of growth or if it's an infill lot, or even if it's a large acreage, there's a neighbor close by that says, I would love my 15 of my buddies, when they went out to my land with me, they said, like, I would love to buy a piece of land over there too. Sure. Guess what? You have a piece of land now. You sent that guy a letter saying like, hey, I want a piece of land in your neighborhood. You interested? He's going to forward it to his 15 guys, and all of these 15 guys is going to buy those 20 acres because now both of these buddies have land in the vicinity. They both have land close by, and they're excited and so on. So you sell neighbors properties to neighbors. Sometimes neighbors also buy for the exact opposite reason. They want to buy in order to prevent anyone else from
buying it. Right.
Yeah, they want more space. They don't want the neighbor. Right. Like a good friend of mine has a house in Sedona, Arizona. Have you ever been to Sedona?
Yeah, I have. I love Sedona.
Yeah, gorgeous place, red rocks, everything. So from his backyard, he has this beautiful mountain views, including they've built this chapel into the mountains, and it's like this gorgeous modern chapel against this red rocks. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's beautiful to sit there with a glass of wine or tea, whatever you drink, into the backyard and looking up into the thing. But the reason you can see it because there's an empty lot behind him.
Yes.
So what did he do? He contacted the owners and he bought that empty lot from them in order for nobody to ever build on there, so he can maintain his views. So the neighbors will buy a lot of the properties. And then over time, what happens is if you list it here and there, you build up more and more and more people, and you put them in what's called the buyer's list. And then you go back to your buyer's list. Yep. I think about, you have a lot for sale. You put it on Cracks, you put it on Facebook Marketplace, you put it on LandWatch, you put it on all kinds of different places. You contact the neighbors, and you get 100 people contact you about it, but only one buys it.
That's all you need.
So next time you have another property in that neighborhood, right? Wouldn't it make sense to go to those 99 people that didn't buy the first one and listen and say like, hey, I got another one. You were interested in this one, for some reason didn't meet your criteria.
Right.
But this one might. It's a little bigger, has a little different views. It's on a different road, XYZ. And they're like, and boom, right there. So over time, you end up selling probably a third of your properties to the neighbors, a third of the properties to your buyer's list, and a third of the properties through all the other sources, or you simply hire a realtor and they do it all for you.
I love that, Jack. You've got quite a system here, very well dialed in, but 22 years of experience really shows. People can get in touch with you by heading out to landprofitfund.com. I'm going to pop the website right now, but there's a free 30-day land flipping blueprint they can sign up for right here and get that. And you mentioned you also offer some one-on-one coaching as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about how it works if somebody wants to really engage with you to start doing this?
So if they want to fully engage, obviously you can go there. They can go, they can connect with us. They can go to our website, landprofitgenerator.com. They can go to landexpertcall.com and book a call with our team and talk about it. We have all kinds of programs. It starts from a home study course all the way to 1 year, 101, the partnership coaching where you joint venture with us, where you get assigned we call it coach, but in this case, it's really a partner that for the first few deals will do the deals with you. You guys split the deals, you work together in the deals, you look over the shoulder. It's like a partnership apprenticeship program that it's not even a coaching program. You will literally come in and they'll work with you from day one, set up your systems. We give you leads right from the get-go. You work those with your coach, you work those leads. You're basically like two peas in a pot together, getting those deals under contract, getting them sold, split the profits for the first few deals, and then, but by that time you have a full-blown business, and then you can take it from there. So it's like, again, 1 year worth, a 1 year program, and all the way down to 14-week programs, or even just a home study course. We got it all. We have created over 1,000 millionaires already, and we're proud to say that basically we're the one with the biggest breadth of knowledge in the industry. And we have 14 coaches. And whether you want to jump right into land development, or if you want to do those wholesale deals or seller financing deals or land splits or creative deal structuring with creating notes and selling notes, we got you, because we do it all. Our team, multiple people of our team do any and all of these strategies any given day.
I love that, Jack. And people should really reach out, guys. I mean, what an opportunity. Let's do some parting thoughts here. We're going to wrap this thing up. 2025 is going to be a big year for real estate, right? What's your take on it? Are you going to be positive, negative? Are you going to do more deals in 25 than 24? What's your trend analysis prediction for your 25 land market?
So I think the land market in 25 will do extremely well. like ever since COVID has really changed the fabric of the United States.
Yes.
With the way people think, what people want, and their desire to have space and land has exploded. So after COVID, the demand for land has gone off the like a rocket ship.
Yes.
And we don't see it coming back down, because with additions like Starlink, for example, you can now be on your own mini ranch, where back in the days you had your own mini ranch, but if you had still a job or you had a business, you went there Friday night to Sunday evening, and had to come back because you didn't even have cell phone reception, you didn't have internet reception.
Sure.
Now you put up a little satellite dish there, you put some solar panels up there, you dig a well, and you can build a 5,000 square foot home on such a property, and and fully live there, operate from there. So the world has changed, and with it, the demand for land has changed, and the ability to use land has changed. And so for the land, we're very, very positive. What's currently particularly happening is one thing is like on the negative side in a way. What has happened is that the last few years of high inflation have eroded the bottom end of our market. So I don't want to just say land is great. I want to say land with values of $30,000 and more is fantastic. Land with values below $30,000, and perhaps 2030 is like a gray zone, but below $30,000, roughly speaking, the bottom has fallen out, because who wants a $10,000 piece of land? A multimillionaire or somebody who can just afford a $10,000 piece of land?
The second one.
The second one. And unfortunately, the people that can afford just only a $10,000 piece of land currently can't afford it anymore, because groceries have doubled, rent has gone up 40%. Everything has gone up, and their discretionary income has been crushed. Yes. So that will change as soon as the economy takes off again, as soon as business is doing well for everyone again, and so on. At that point, that'll change again. We had that same happen in 2008, 9, and 10. We were doing deals left and right throughout to the big recession. It didn't affect us at all. It just affected the lower price point, because the people with very little money had no money, so they couldn't buy those properties. The people with money continued to have money, and they kept buying these kind of properties, and that's what we're seeing right now. So the $30,000 and plus is on fire more than ever. The below $30,000 properties are currently a little bit harder to sell. Let's put it that way.
What incredible insight, Jack. Thank you so much for that. Any parting thoughts? We're going to wrap up with that, man. So what a great process you have. Obviously, people need to head out to Land Profit Fund. Go get that 30-day land flipping blueprint completely free. Learn this process. See how far you want to take this with Jack. Any parting thoughts you want to give to people wondering about getting started in investing? Is it important to get a coach in land flipping? Should people just jump in? What's your take on people who are on the fence about getting started in this process?
Well, I look at the success rates overall in the industry, and I know that coaching works, and that's why we offer coaching. So yes, I would recommend that if you can get started the right way. I always find it funny that people say like, well, of course I'm going to go to school to learn math. Of course I'm going to go to university and to become good at math. But in investing, they're like, I don't need to learn from anyone. I can figure this out.
Isn't that crazy?
Like there's another word for a teacher in school. You call them coach.
That's right.
I mean, because you don't ever go and say like, I want to become a physicist, but I don't ever want to go read a book about physics, and I don't want to ever going to go and study physics and go to the best teachers that I can find for physics. Yes. Nobody would ever say that. So don't say that about investing either, because there's so much you need to learn. There's so much other things. But the other thing I want to say is that it doesn't matter if you learn land flipping, or if you learn fix and flip, or if you learn foreclosures. What you really need to focus on is something that you think you're going to enjoy every day. Not every minute. There's minutes that I hate my business. There's stuff that happens that I don't want to happen. There's days that I don't feel like waking up. But when you say on average, every day, every week, you say like, man, I'm in an industry that I really enjoy. I'm in doing something, a technique or method that I really enjoy. Then then that's what you should do. So pick something that you feel you will enjoy, because if you think you won't enjoy it, you're only doing it for the money, you won't stick with it.
Amen.
And so that's an important thing. So whether that's land or not doesn't matter. Like, because if you don't think you'll enjoy it, don't do it. But if you think you'll enjoy it, check it out.
Jack, this has been incredibly insightful, man. Thank you for all the knowledge. I hope people will head on out. I'm popping up one more time to Land Profit Fund. And I want to thank you for taking the time out to talk to my audience about getting into land flipping. And this is an area I've been interested in for years. I've done a couple of land deals, not a ton, but definitely with your insight, I'm excited about 25, maybe picking up some land deals in 25 as well. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Hey guys, you heard it right here. Listen, this is the land business. I mean, who would have thought? We've talked about houses and looking at property, but there's a lot of moving parts to that. Land is simpler. It's not going anywhere. They're not making any more of it. Once again, if you want to learn more about that, head on out to Land Profit Fund and learn more about that. And again, like Jack was saying, find something you're passionate about. For me, it was the foreclosure market. So if you want to learn more about foreclosures, we've got my system as well, but definitely check out Land Profit Fund, learn more about investing. But most importantly, here in 2025, it's time to get started. Pick the strategy that works for you and get going. With that, this is Donnie Corum, your foreclosure deals coach. Thanking you so much for tuning in to the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast and reminding you now and always, don't buy a house, buy a deal.